is Neutral Ice.
He'll come around. Zubin, range, scores! What a goal!
Moving in with McDavid. Pouliot to McDavid. McDavid! Oh, what a move! What a goal! Connor McDavid.
A lead pass now for Jamie Benn. He's behind everybody. He's in on Anderson to the backhand. Score!
Buffalo's best hockey show every Monday night.
Now Foligno plays it back across. A chance for Eichel. Score! Jack Eichel's first National Hockey League goal.
Foul flip to the shoot. Oh, what a save by Carey Price. Monumental. Drops it to Richards. Across the cage. He scores!
On Buffalo's regional alternative, 91.3 FM, WBNY.
The thing is, though, you also got to look at this. Stamkos is going to want to go to a team that's ready to win now. He's going to want to go to a team where he can contend for the cup.
Right, yeah.
Stamkos is...
And that's not Toronto.
It's not Toronto. Exactly. It's really not.
They have Babcock, they have money, but they got no one else.
But they're rebuilding. They're rebuilding their team. They're starting over. A guy like Nazem Kadri may not be on the team next year, and right now he's their highest paid forward. At only $4.1 million. Mike Babcock is the highest paid person on that team, technically. He's making over $5 million. No one on the Leafs. Jonathan Bernier is the highest paid player at $4.15. I mean, or besides guys like Lupo and Van Riemsdyk, but they're on IR right now. But the other thing too is Jack Eichel might be the reason why Stamkos comes here, because then Stamkos gets to play with a guy like Eichel.
Yeah. I just feel like
even Reinhart as well.
I'm not. It's not like I'm against having good players come to the Sabres. It's not at all. I'm thinking, I think it's Eichel's team, and maybe you let him steer the ship. But
I don't know.
If Stamkos wants to come here and play along, I just feel like he wants to be a number one center, and I feel like we already have a number one center in Eichel.
Okay. Let's say then, would Eichel move to wing? Then would you want Eichel as a winger then?
If you
have
Stamkos came here, sure, yeah. I mean,
if Eichel's
but I don't know.
That's the thing.
Would he want to play center? You don't. I don't. It's confusing when you have such superstars because you don't want to. It might sound stupid, but you don't want to. Piss them off.
Yeah. Once again,
you don't want to piss them off.
You're listening to Neutral Ice. Joe DiBiase, Frank Arcuri, Ryan Mullen on WBNY. You can call in, join in on the discussion 716-878-5104 to address the question about Eichel at wing. That's just something I don't want to do personally, but I feel like we always discuss these positional changes before a player gets here, and I kind of use Ryan O'Reilly as an example. O'Reilly, when he got here, everyone's blueprint was Eichel first line center, Reinhart second line center, Gergenson's third line center. O'Reilly's going to fit in somewhere on a wing spot in the top two lines. Right now, you're looking at it, even if Reinhart and Eichel become elite players, I think most people still want O'Reilly at center just because of what he gives you on an all-around basis, and he's one of the best face-off men in the league.
Right.
So Stamkos could get here, and we could pretty soon forget about questions of him playing center because, I mean, if Stamkos comes here, I think the main reason, as Frank touched on it, is Jack Eichel. Because if you remember, the first time Buffalo played Tampa Bay, I believe it was the first time, it was in Tampa, and Eichel took over that game. And Stamkos has to be looking at him as a future phenom, and who wouldn't want to play with that person?
Right.
So I wonder if Stamkos, even though he wants to play center, if he might value playing on Eichel's wing more so.
I was just thinking that too. Stamkos could play wing as well because he does play wing on Tampa.
Right. The two players, by the way, he's played
but
with
he doesn't
the most.
like that. He wants to play wing.
Well, also
he
remember
wants to play center.
The two players he's played with the most this season, Ryan Callahan and Vladislav Nemestikov. Neither one of them are elite players. Callahan is a good winger. He's not a great scoring winger. He's more of an all-around gritty guy. Nemestikov is young and kind of unpolished, so he gives you he's very inconsistent. Would he rather have playing on the wing with Jack Eichel and maybe Evander Kane or Sam Reinhart? Or does he want to go to Toronto and play center and have who on his wing?
And be virtually
Leo Komarov?
Be virtually in the same problem.
JVR and Leo Komarov.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, I think Buffalo is a way, way better situation for him.
Well, it is, yes. But I think one thing we also got to look at, too, is remember what Bob McKenzie said. He said Buffalo should be number one on Stamkos' list of teams to go to. That doesn't mean that Buffalo is Stamkos' number one option. That's Bob McKenzie's opinion that Buffalo should be. That's my. I'm thinking now. I'm just like, well, how certain is Bob McKenzie on that? We trust Bob McKenzie, yes.
Yeah.
But how certain is he that Buffalo is number one? It just sounds like that he thinks Buffalo should be number one on Stamkos' list.
He's probably
what we were just saying. But it does Stamkos, is that really number one on Buffalo on Stamkos' list?
And let's remember, he was adding to the fact that Dreger, who had said it on TV and also wrote in an article on TSN, that he doesn't believe that there's really going to be any link to Stamkos to Toronto. He doesn't feel there's any chance of that happening in reality. So then you have to think Buffalo. And, Stamkos goes to free agency, all 30 teams are going to call.
Yeah. But anyone who can afford to sign him will.
Who else really is a great fit for Stamkos? Because remember, he's gonna be getting max deal.
I think the main reason why Bob McKenzie thinks Buffalo is such a great idea is because of location. He was born right in St. Catharines, so it's
location and cap space.
Right.
He grew up a Toronto fan, but he's got to think about, I want to win now, and Buffalo is pretty close to my hometown, so that seems good enough. And they got Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, but I like Toronto. I loved Toronto growing up, but they suck right now. So that's why I think where Bob McKenzie is coming from.
I agree. Yeah.
And there's two ways to look at Toronto, because one, we were wrong about this with Babcock. You think there's no way he's going to go to Toronto. What does Toronto have? They have nothing. Like, you're going to go there. This is clearly a better situation. But there's also something to that allure of being a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah.
And playing in the hockey mecca of the world.
Playing in the original 6 team.
Yes, playing just for the most classic team. But that doesn't also mean he's going to put everything else down below that. So I think we should just temper our expectations that Toronto isn't realistic, because I think Toronto is realistic just because of the fact
it's
that it's Toronto. But I also don't believe we should just assume he's going there, because you also have to look at the fact that they don't have really anything to build on with him.
Let's think about this. So,
well, they do. Toronto does. They have Mitch Marner. They have William Nylander.
But they don't, if you're looking at Stamkos suitors, they are the lowest.
Okay.
Their top players that you can build on are not yet in the NHL. The Sabres are maybe Toronto, but 3 years ahead of them.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So let's think about this. So we're kind of comparing Babcock and Stamkos, if Stamkos is going to go to Toronto. So you got to think about Babcock won in Detroit. He already won. So I don't think he wants to win, but I don't think if he's going, when he probably made up his mind a while ago that he always wanted to go to Toronto. So when he was making up his mind, do I want to go to Buffalo? Do I want to go to Toronto? He was thinking, well, I won, so I'm going to go to Toronto, rebuild, start something new and start my own thing and, win there in the hockey mecca of the world. Stamkos hasn't won in Stanley Cup. So he hasn't tasted that. He wants that. So I think if, deep down, if he really wants to be a Maple Leaf, he'll do it. But I think there's something about he wants to win a Stanley Cup so bad, I think he's going to go to wherever he can get it. And I think Buffalo seems logical about now.
And when you look at teams right now that have a lot of cap space, really, okay, if you look at the top 7 teams, let's do 9 or 10 actually, there really isn't a great landing spot that can afford him. Winnipeg, yes or no? Give me a quick yes or no. I guarantee almost all these are going to be no's. So Winnipeg.
I'm going to say no, but it's a good option. My only thing with
he
Winnipeg,
would never go to Winnipeg. Come on.
Possibly, because they do have a good team there. The only big
this year.
They just gave a bunch of money to Buffalo, and I don't think they're deep.
They're still gonna have. And
remember, they're not a cap team.
Yeah, the only thing they have to really do is re-sign Mark Scheifele.
Yeah,
and Jacob Trouba.
I don't think.
Yeah, I'm
gonna
say no. I'm gonna say no for Winnipeg.
That.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
Arizona, he's not going to the desert.
No.
Nashville.
No.
Probably not, especially because they traded for Ryan Johansson.
Right. Sabres, we already know about that. The Devils. It's not a great landing spot by any means. Carolina, just come on.
No.
I doubt it.
Colorado.
No,
they wouldn't pay O'Reilly. They're going to pay Stamkos double what O'Reilly got.
Yeah.
Anaheim.
No. Especially with Getzlav and Kessler already there.
Yeah, I just don't see that happen either. And then you go Ottawa and Florida. So really,
Florida is interesting, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only
How's
thing
that?
is, I think Florida's a very interesting one because Florida's got something there. They have an established team there, and they look like they're a team that's ready to win. With, an Aaron Ekblad, with Nick Bukestad, with Alexander Barkov, with Jonathan Huberdeau. That's a very interesting. I think not Winnipeg. I think Florida may be a dark horse in landing Stamkos.
Yeah, I don't know about because he's already in Tampa. Do you think maybe he's sick of Florida in general and that he just wants to move up north?
It could maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's just. It may not be just a thing where he just doesn't want to live in southern United States. It could be a thing where he just doesn't want to play for the Lightning.
Yeah,
because of
true.
because of organizational reasons. He could go to Florida. If he goes to Florida, he's going to a team that's looking like they're going to win the Atlantic Division this year. Could make a deep playoff run this year, and if they land Stamkos, they're gonna be better. He'll be better next year. And there's pieces around. There'll be pieces there as well, as I just mentioned. Nick Bukestad. Yager's there too. Jonathan Huberdeau, Alexander Barkov, Aaron Ekblad, Roberto Luongo.
But wouldn't you think one of the reasons he would want to leave Tampa is because he doesn't want to play in a southern non-hockey city anymore?
We don't know that, though.
I feel it.
Well, we don't know that.
Why else would he leave Tampa?
Organizational reasons. Like, he just doesn't want to play for the Lightning.
I think if he leaves, it's because he wants to go to a hockey market.
I think that definitely sounds like would be a reason. I'm just
Unless
saying
there's something
Florida
internal
might be
we
a
don't
dark
know
horse.
about.
I'm just saying Florida might be. Yeah, I'm also thinking it could be more
Tampa
internal.
ownership is one of the best in the league. They're spending a lot of money to develop that city as like the hockey center of the South.
Yeah,
like they're building complexes. They're putting a lot of money into youth hockey. Their arena is top notch. They got huge jumbotron.
But then if that was also the case, then they would have had no problem re-signing Stamkos.
Unless Stamkos just doesn't want to play, maybe he wants to play up north.
Then maybe that's more of maybe that's more of the reason.
And then past them, I mean, the Islanders, no. The Oilers, no. Blue Jackets, probably not.
If you look at the top 10 the top 10 teams with the most cap space, Jets, Coyotes, Predators, Sabres. The Sabres are the only hockey town. So I mean, if you go with that narrative that he wants to play for a hockey town. Winnipeg, sure, they fill up that arena and they're loud. It's a great crowd, but does he really want to go up there in the north? That's I don't know. I mean, it's all dependent on what he wants, and it seems clearly like he wants money or it's I'm leaving.
At this point, the only thing that we can judge on what he wants is what he has done so far, and what he has done so far is he has not signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the only thing that we can really sit here and say is that he hasn't made a commitment to stay in Tampa Bay.
Right.
So your top guesses onto why that is, considering they're a good team, considering they just came off a Stanley Cup Finals appearance, is the location of the team. And, I mean, there's not a lot of concrete stuff past that. Because that would, unless he just wants to play for Toronto.
Maybe it's also he knows what the direction the organization's going, too.
You forgot a huge part of this too.
What?
The contract that they offered Stamkos was way lowballing him.
What was it?
They offered
I don't
him
remember.
it was like 8.5.
It was 7 years, 8.5 or 9 million. It was somewhere between there, which is at least 3 or 4 million below what he really is worth.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah. Maybe another. I'm just thinking too. Maybe another reason he knows that maybe the organization's going to be going downhill soon. And I look at it, too. It seems very likely that this organization, you might see them in the bottom of the NHL standings in, 2 years.
I got a hot take for you. What if... Now, I know the NHL will never do this because, they are clearly not a smart professional sports team league. What if Stamkos goes to Arizona next year, okay? He goes to Arizona. Then the following year... Arizona is moved to Quebec. How interesting would that be?
That's very interesting. However, I don't think Arizona's relocating
it would never happen
anytime
because
soon.
Gary Bettman doesn't even watch hockey and doesn't understand anything.
No, it's not even that.
He talks
because
like that.
Yeah.
But there's
no,
of course
also because Arizona's not relocating anytime soon because they just
but
got
that
the
would be
lease on their arena.
so intriguing.
That'd be very intriguing.
Or even if you move Carolina to
That team needs to
go
be
back.
moved.
That team needs to relocate.
Let's all right.
Or
So
Stamkos ends up in Las Vegas.
yeah,
Oh no, with Danny Heatley.
with the slots.
Danny Heatley, yeah, and
Bruce
Alex
Gallo.
Simon.
So we're gonna one last question. I'm gonna ask you on Stamkos. One kind of a one-word answer. If you had to put odds on him becoming a Buffalo Sabre right now, percentage-wise, they would be
60%.
wow. That's way high. Come on, 60
Well, right now,
right
or
now.
considering he doesn't resign until free agency,
Right now, just if you had to guess.
30%.
Frank,
I'm gonna say 25%.
I'm gonna say 20.
Okay.
So we're all giving them a chance, a decent chance.
Yeah, Buffalo's got a great chance.
A little bit better
Well,
odds.
out of all the teams, they probably have the best as of right now.
Better odds than we had to get McDavid. That's one.
Yeah.
That's one way to look
Low
at
blow.
it. Now, we're going to move on from Steven Stamkos because we will have – hopefully he does not sign there because that will give us talking points for months and months to come until July 1st. And you can join the discussion at 716-878-5104. Already had a couple try to call in. And we're going to move on to Jamie McGinn and the upcoming trade deadline. He is the most polarizing player on the team when it comes to the trade deadline just because of where the team stands standings-wise, where he stands with his contract. And now Tim Murray adds in a nice little tidbit on WGR, I believe it was a week and a half ago, that he has discussed numbers with McGinn's agent. So that tells me Murray is interested in bringing him back.
Right.
Which we never saw from guys like Chris Stewart and like Jonas Enroth and all those players that he's dealt at prior deadlines. So if you had to guess right now, is Jamie McGinn getting traded at the deadline?
I still think he will. And one of the reasons is more assets for the organization. And we haven't heard
Is
anything.
McGinn not like an asset for the organization though?
Oh no, he is, but I'm saying what I'm seeing more is a better, like kind of what Matt Molson did. You trade him at the deadline and then you bring him back in the offseason.
That just doesn't happen though.
Well, that's
such a rare case.
It's a rare case, but
yeah.
But we haven't. But
if
what
you
if
can
we
get a
heard? I'm also
commitment-
thinking like, what have we heard since then? Not much, because they're only discussing numbers. Well, when are they like? What are they discussing numbers for? Are they discussing numbers to re-sign him now? Or are they discussing, what he's gonna make, what they think he's gonna make in the open markets?
Right now, I think their intentions should be to re-sign him.
Oh, they should be, yes.
For sure.
Yes.
McGinn's intentions, if I were him, would be to see what Buffalo's offering, and I would
Right.
test the open market with this being my number one choice to stay in. Because
Okay.
you have chemistry with Ryan O'Reilly. You've built chemistry over this year. You've had a good season. You don't really need a change of scenery as a player. So if he likes Buffalo, which all signs point to that being the case, flying in helicopters with Evander Kane and such, I think if he wants to stay here and the money works, he's definitely a player. I would much rather have Jamie McGinn on this team than a third-round pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that third-round pick, you're hoping, and it's probably not going to happen, you're hoping that player's going to become as good as Jamie McGinn in 5 years.
Yeah. Or even better. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So McGinn, and remember, what this team, when you're looking at the playoffs next year, their biggest holes to fill is secondary scoring and defense. McGinn is right now your best secondary scorer. If you're putting lines together for next year and you're putting a third line together, you're probably counting on him to be maybe the top scorer on that line. So to take him off the team just seems like a big deficiency to me.
I just think he's he's a character guy. He seems like everyone loves him, and
Right.
even though
He seems like the jokester of the team.
even though not to get off topic, like Leguan's
Just like
a
John
good
Scott.
character guy too, but he might get traded. But I think the goal for Murray should be to resign, but it always comes to the point. It's a business, and if it gets to that point at the deadline where we're not reaching the terms or numbers, you're gonna have to, because you don't want to just let him walk for free, or unless you think maybe you can sign him sometime during the summer with everyone else. But I don't know. I think you should be trying to resign him, but it all depends. Like, how much do you think he would want?
True. I want to transition into, as we kind of got on the point of, what the Sabres need for a playoff spot. And I feel it's secondary scoring. They need a couple more wingers to play on that third line. Liam McHugh, Jeremy Roenick, and Keith Jones on NBC last night, NBCSN, posed the question, how close are the Sabres to making the playoffs? And Keith Jones said they're a very good defenseman away from making it next season. Would you say more or less than that they need?
I can believe...
Just to make the playoffs, by the way.
Yeah, I can believe that if they get another really good defenseman, that they can make the playoffs as like a wild card team next season.
Yeah, I can see that.
But the other big thing is goaltending, because this was supposed to be the year Robin Lehner gets to show that he can be a starter in the league.
Yeah,
and he gets hurt the first game.
I feel if he stays healthy, I think I'm okay there.
I think we would be fine.
That's a big if at this point, though.
It's still a big if, though. Exactly, because that's still a big if, and if we get that really good defenseman, then that's going to be the number one concern is, well, how good's the goaltending going to be? And I think that right there could leave the Sabres out of the playoffs next season. But
also,
don't discount Linus Ullmark. Could, if he develops right, even though he actually hasn't played that great in Rochester since he went down. I believe save percentage was like 904. If he could develop more, he could even be a guy you could rely on.
I mean, I'm still looking at hoping for a Leonard Ullmark 1-2 next season.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
You might even sign Johnson just as insurance in case Leonard gets hurt again.
Yeah.
Or if Ullmark's not ready.
Yeah. Or just any other goalie.
So, great defenseman. How are they going to get that? Draft. Right now, I believe there's only
one really good defenseman.
I think there's two. I think there's one that's going to be NHL ready next year.
That's the thing.
Jacob Chychrun's going to be ready next year.
That's going to be the thing.
If anyone watched TSN's draft show, they had his NHL comparable at Zach Bogosian. No, it's just like style-wise, they're similar.
Yeah.
But his ceiling is just so much higher than that.
It's so much higher.
I would have compared him to someone completely different. Also, Yuya Levy, Finnish defenseman.
Yeah.
Tied for the lead in World Junior points for Finland. To me, he was definitely the best defenseman at the CHL Top Prospect game. Chychrun didn't have a great game.
Okay.
So I think the gap between them is smaller, but Chychrun just has a man's body. 6'3", I believe 195, 196.
Yeah.
He can be a guy that can step right in next season. And when you're looking at free agency,
that's going to be the thing, though, because
and how good is he
looking at it? If you're looking at it towards the draft, you got to get it. Then Jacob Chychrun's the only guy you could really go for, because he's the only one who really looks like he's NHL ready.
So that need in the draft, only one guy that can address it. Free agency,
there's guys.
Brian Campbell.
He's too old.
Brian Campbell might be the fittest player in the league, though.
True.
And he is an Iron Man, and I don't believe he hasn't missed a game in 6 seasons, 5 seasons. He has the longest streak.
He could probably easily play another couple years.
I feel like he's a guy who could play into his 40s.
Yeah.
And he doesn't play a bruising role where he's always taking the body. I think he's a guy that you could rely on, especially next year. Alex Goligoski.
I like him.
30 years old.
That's not a bad option.
Keith Yandel.
That's an interesting one.
Keith Yandel.
That's very interesting.
Now the only thing
I've always really liked Keith Yandel. He has a very simple style of game. Left-handed shooter. He would be perfect. I think he would be a great guy to fit with Ristolainen, because he would also increase Ristolainen's power play as well, because because you could put both those guys. You can have both those guys together on the power play, or separate them, and you got 2 really good power play quarterbacks right there, and 2 guys who could log in a lot of minutes.
The only other guy I really see on this free agency list that you could put on a top. Dan Boyle's too old.
Yeah,
he's 40.
Too old.
And he's an old 39. Because he played, I believe, when he was 19. Campbell, remember, didn't become an NHL regular until he was 24.
Yeah.
The only other defenseman on here I could really think could be a top pair guy is Dan Hamhuis.
And I don't even think he really is.
He might be on this team.
On this team, yes. But he's also 33. And he's been hurt most of the season as well.
One more, I forgot. Chris Russell, who I think is a very underrated defenseman in Calgary that gets buried sometimes because they have Dougie Hamilton, Giordano, and TJ Brody.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's a top pair guy by any means, but I think on this team he's definitely in your top 4.
See, I worry that Chris Russell's more
one-dimensional.
Well, in terms of like, is he a number one or is he like a top line defense or he's like a third line defense, and similar to how Josh Georges is.
True, who like will play on your top pair just because you have to have him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look horrible at it, but you know he's not a top pair defense.
Exactly.
That's a good point. He's a little more dynamic offensively, but that's a good comparison.
He is.
What if the Sabres went an RFA route for maybe a Tyson Barrie kind of guy?
I think if you're going to get a guy who could play on the top line, you want to get a left-handed shooter to play with because Riston Lyon's a right-handed shooter.
The other thing is I don't think Colorado's letting him out of their grasp at all.
No way.
So
if Colorado will be,
they'll never let it happen. Sammy Vatanen maybe is a guy though.
That's an interesting.
I don't like him on the top pair though because he's just so small.
He is. Same thing with Torrey Krug.
Jacob Trouba is the guy if you want to do that, by the way.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back on the other side, we're going to go over buyers and sellers. Who are the buyers of this league right now? Who are the sellers? We're going to be joined by Chris Kowalczyk of Pucks and Pitchforks of the New Jersey Devils fan-sided page, and we'll be right back here on Neutral Ice on 91.3 FM WBNY. You're listening to Neutral Ice on 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982. Brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee, Joe DiBiase, Ryan Mullen, Frank Arcuri, and joined on the line by Chris Kowalczyk. Chris, how are you doing?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
We are doing very well. We have Stamkos rumors, so that's kind of been preoccupying our time.
Yeah.
How is it going in the Devils world right now?
The Devils are on a roll right now. It's I keep expecting it to end at some point, and
it just keeps going. They keep winning 1-0.
To stop playing well, and they keep winning. Yeah, they keep winning games. They have 1 goal. They won 2-1 Saturday against Philly in overtime, and then they won 1-0 yesterday against Los Angeles.
Getting a shutout from
Keith.
Getting a shutout from Keith Kincaid, by the way.
Yeah, first career shutout. Good for him.
So how are you thinking about their chances right at this moment?
At the moment, they've played more games than most of the other teams around them, which makes me a little nervous about them going forward. But if they keep playing the way that they're playing and they keep winning games, they'll find themselves somehow in the playoffs. Nobody thought that before the season.
Well, they are 2 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins for that first wild card spot, I should say. They are also ahead of Tampa Bay at the moment. They are dead last, though, in the Eastern Conference in goals scored with 127. Philadelphia is next closest at 131. So, with goal scoring being an issue and the trade deadline coming up, being in a playoff spot, Chris, we're going to start with you. Do you feel the Devils are going to be buyers or are they going to be sellers?
I actually think the Devils stand pat this year. I think that they're going to try and roll with what they have to the playoffs. If anything, they'll move a guy. They'll try and bring in like a lower level forward, maybe a bottom six guy to try and help scoring down there. But I can't see them moving any significant pieces because the Devils technically still are in rebuilding mode. If you look, most of their players now coming up are young. They haven't drafted well in the last few years outside of a couple diamonds in the rough. Now we see Joseph Landisi just on a tear right now for this team. I think he's got like 12 or 13 points in his first 16, 17 NHL games. So I think that the Devils are going to stand pat. I don't think they're going to make a move, and I think they're just going to roll with what they've got and try and backdoor themselves into the playoffs.
Frank, any disagreement?
No, I agree. I'm looking at the Devils right now, and I'm thinking, yeah, they're probably just going to stand pat. If anything, I could see a movement at most like a third-round pick. Maybe a second-round pick if they can get like a second line player. I don't see them trading like their first-round pick to try and get someone big. I think more or less they're gonna just stay where they are and just keep playing with the way they do. Because a guy like Corey Schneider has been fantastic this season for them, and they've had a lot of chemistry on a lot of their lines. Chris, you just mentioned Joseph Landis. He's been great since he got called up, and if you got everything rolling right now, why change it up?
Right, and the one of the big things right now about this Devils team is that Mike Camilleri hasn't played, and I don't think he's played since the All-Star break. So I think they're getting him back tomorrow night, which will be a huge addition back to the team, considering the Devils are the worst in the Eastern Conference in scoring.
All right, so we're going to move on from the Devils. We're going to keep going here with, are they buyers or are they sellers? Next team we're going to touch on, the Carolina Hurricanes. Currently 60 points. They are 4 out of a playoff spot. Ryan, let's start with you.
I would say...
And remember, they have Eric Staal on an expiring contract, so if they want to be sellers, they very well can be.
So they're 4 points out of a...
4 points out of a playoff spot.
I would say sellers, even though they'd probably have to give up on the playoffs at this point. They are, 4 points out with the Penguins ahead of them. I just don't see them. Does anyone realistically see them beat out the Penguins?
No. I don't think so either.
Crosby's been playing good as of late, even though he's not the entire team.
They've won 7 of their last 10, though, Pittsburgh has.
So, yeah.
Bud Malkin has been out the last few nights, I believe.
Yeah, for over a week now.
It's not
major.
big.
He'll be back soon, but still he has missed a few games.
Yeah.
So I would say the Hurricanes are tricky because, you look at it now, like 4 points out, okay, we could definitely make that wild card spot, but you got to look who's in front of you. You got, the Penguins.
Tampa.
They're
going to have to get over either Pittsburgh or Tampa and then the Devils, unless they can catch up on a team like the Islanders, who they're 6 points behind.
Now, the Islanders are interesting because the Islanders have been wildly inconsistent this season. They've just gone on these little runs where they win 7, 8 games in a row, and then they lose 5 in a row. They were 30, 19, and 6 after their win today. But the Islanders are an interesting team to watch. If they go into the playoffs hot, they could be dangerous.
But then if they go into the playoffs cold, they're going to be one and done.
Just like every other year.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Next team on our list, the Philadelphia Flyers. They are 6 points out. They always seem like a team that buys, but no one's really thinking they're going to make the playoffs. They have a wildly unbalanced team. Their top line has been playing phenomenal with Giroux, Simmons, and Voracek, and they get almost nothing past that, except for Gostisbehere, who's been a pleasant surprise, 12-game point streak for him.
It's really, I don't really think it should be a surprise. I watched Shane Gostisbehere play, especially in the World Juniors of 2013 when the U.S. won gold. He was fantastic. He's a great
I don't think
defenseman.
anyone thought he would be this good this quickly, though.
This quick, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you got to also look at Torrey Krug. Look how well he played when he first got called up to the Bruins. Yes, the Bruins they're a good team when he got called up, and he was just helping up. He really did. He really, especially against the Rangers in the second round of the 2013 playoffs, he took over that series. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the Bruins winning that series. That was really Torrey Krug winning the series for the Bruins because he was just fantastic. He was just scoring, putting points up like it's nothing, and Gostisbehere is pretty much doing the same thing.
So maybe they're thinking Gostisbehere could do the same thing in the playoffs. So, Frank, would you buy or sell if you're the Flyers?
If I'm Philly, though, I think I'm going to say that I think Philly should be sellers because I really don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But I think they're going to be buyers. I think they're going to try to make a trade that's going to help them for a playoff run like they do all the time.
I think I disagree with that. We've seen in recent years that the Flyers have always been this team that buys at the deadline, but I think that the Flyers might be all in on the Austin Matthews sweepstakes. They're a little bit ahead right now, but I think that they might consider falling back into that sweepstakes and build for the future because they've got a lot of young forwards that are coming up. And then you have Gostisbehere, and then I know there are a few other defensemen there, and for the Flyers to be a dangerous team in a couple of years, I could see them making I don't know if they sell at the deadline. They might kind of be in the Devil situation and just stand pat. But I just don't see the Flyers buying this season.
Yeah, I don't see the Philly trading away like their first-round pick for a guy. I see them more as trading away like they have 2 second-round picks this year they can use. They have 2 third-round picks this year they can use, and they have 3 third-round picks next year that they can use. I can see them using multiple of those picks to try and get a forward or
they can get a guy like maybe Mikhail Bodker out of Arizona
if they can pry him out. So that's gonna be a thing. Yeah, but I agree. I think they're going to try and do something like that to try to spark some offense to try for a playoff run. I just don't think it's going to be successful for them.
So you don't think they're going to make a move like right now they have $5.22 million to use on deadline day. that they can add. So you don't believe they're going to add a guy like, say, Eric Stahl?
No, I don't think they're going to try to add a guy like that, because Carolina's going to want a lot for him.
True.
And I don't think Philly's going to be willing to trade, especially guys for the future.
Okay. Next team on our list, the Montreal Canadiens, who now doesn't seem like they're going to be getting Carey Price back at all this season. So that's got to put you in a bind, knowing Mike Condon is going to be, or Ben Scrivens, who has actually played decent as of late. Those are going to be your goalies for the rest of the way, and you're not a very good team to begin with without them. So we'll start with Ryan this time, and then we'll go to Chris. Montreal, buyer or seller?
I think they are sellers because, like you just said, Carey's done. That's your goalie, and he's, even though they are built on a strong goalie and, playing strong defensive play, and your star goalie's out, maybe the best goalie in the league when he's healthy, but I think they're selling right now and rebuilding for next year or the next couple of years, rebolstering the roster, adding some more people that can score or so, maybe a better goalie in net. So if Carey goes down again, but I think I don't think they have a good chance of coming close to a playoff spot.
Chris, what's your thoughts?
I agree. When Carey Price is healthy, this is one of the better teams in the NHL. It's not a top 5 team, but right now they're not. They just haven't played well. They started so hot. They won their first 10 games, and it's just been a free fall since then. I think that they still at the deadline and try and work something in the draft and bounce back next season. I don't think that this team is dead for next year, but for now I think they're done.
Players they could sell at the deadline. Dale Weiss is a UFA at the end of the year. Paul Byron is a UFA at the end of the year.
Tom Gilbert.
Thomas Fleischman, if they can get anything for him.
They could trade Ben Scrivens, too. He's a UFA.
Yeah.
I agree. I also think Montreal is going to be sellers at the deadline.
I wonder if they could maybe move a guy, if Andrei Markov would waive his no-trade clause, 37 years old.
That's an interesting
big
one as
cap
well.
hit. Maybe they can cut him loose to a team that needs a defenseman, like maybe Dallas Stars or someone like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. Because and then you also got to look at Montreal's future too. Montreal does have a pretty good future. They drafted Noah Juslin.
Yep,
Jolson.
Noah Juslin.
Yeah,
Jolson. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce
something
his name.
in the first round in this most recent draft. They have a couple other pretty decent forwards in Michael McCarron and Nikita Sherbak as well. And then they have Zachary Fucale. And he's in the AHL right now. So if they trade a guy like Brent Scrivens, they can give Fucale a chance to see what he becomes.
Fucale can absolutely be not only a good backup, but a top backup that's like a starting caliber goalie for Carey Price.
That would be very good for Montreal, especially if Carey Price were to get hurt again.
You gotta go to one of these teams on the bubble if they're thinking, well, like Montreal for example. Well, we don't have Carey, and he's kind of our go-to guy. So what if we, trade, our UFAs and such, and then we get significantly worse, and it increases our chances to maybe possibly win the lottery, because now there's even more of a chance to possibly win the lottery this year.
Chris, I think what Ryan is suggesting is a mini tank in Montreal.
I hate the tank. And I hate the tank because you guys are so for it.
Yes.
But if Montreal got Austin Matthews, that would be quite
scary.
The scene in
That'd be
Montreal.
pretty scary.
That'd be very good.
All right, we're going to move on from the Montreal Canadiens. Pretty much done in the East. Ottawa has already bought, even though they are far out of the playoffs, getting Dion Phaneuf.
Right.
Yeah,
Buffalo.
What's with that deal? Why did they do that?
I have no idea. It's one of the worst contracts in the league, I believe. He's an okay second-pair defenseman, but, he's definitely not worth the money. They've lost 3 in a row, so I can see from their standpoint before that happened that they really thought they had a chance to make the playoffs, seeing what happened last season. But I just don't think – I just don't understand it, honestly. Phaneuf is just not the player that should be traded with that contract.
Well, I think maybe they bit the bullet. They knew who Phaneuf is, obviously, but then they just wanted
they needed a veteran defenseman.
Maybe they just bit the bullet, and they wanted the veteran defenseman, someone to play with Carlson maybe, or – obviously the contract's not amazing. It's horrible.
It's horrible.
But you can't do much. So it's like, well, if you make this deal, now we got this guy that maybe can play with Carlson and maybe make a push. Who knows? Maybe he plays better because he's playing with Carlson. it's a risk, but only time will tell to see if it'll truly work out.
Hopefully they do play him with Carlson to see what that turns into, because recently he's been playing with Cody Cece, who is also a very good young defenseman, but nowhere near Carlson's level. Ottawa, right now, or Toronto, I should say right now, has managed to get out of Dion Phaneuf's contract, Phil Kessel's contract, and David Clarkson's contract
within a year after signing them.
They should be congratulated on that.
Yeah,
I
agree.
We all Lamoriello made some questionable moves at the end of his tenure as Devils GM, and a lot of people thought the game outgrew him, but clearly it didn't with what he's doing up in Toronto. They, not now, but after this summer, if they land the right pieces, probably not next year, but the year after, they could be a dangerous team.
They really could. I really think that I tweeted about this when the Phaneuf trade broke. I really think it really isn't that bad of a deal for Ottawa. I really don't. I've always been a fan of Phaneuf. I just think that because he was playing in Toronto, because he was the captain, he was the number one defenseman, that it looked really bad, because Dion Phaneuf is not a number one defenseman. He's never been that. He can play a
He was
top
for
line.
maybe a year or two in Calgary, but not long.
Yeah, but now he's gonna get it. Now he's gonna get a chance to prove that he really is a quality defenseman. I don't think he's worth the contract that he has, but that was also because of the Leafs management being bad.
So basically, what you're saying is he's gonna be looked in a different light now. So maybe
Yes.
we'll see him as a better defenseman.
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna move from the east to the west now. And we're going to start with the Colorado Avalanche, who are in a playoff spot with 62 points in the stacked Central Division. They are not going to get a division spot. They're 11 points behind St. Louis for third. They're 6 points ahead of the Arizona Coyotes, the Minnesota Wild, and the Vancouver Canucks. So they have a pretty good gap there, but they've played 4 more games than all of those teams. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. Colorado, buy or sell?
I think Colorado's got a lot of young guys still. And I think they're going to try and make a playoff push, so I think that they buy.
A defenseman, probably?
Probably, yeah.
Frank, what do you
I
think?
agree. I think Colorado is going to be buyers at the deadline. They're in the playoffs now. They got that. They have a comfortable lead. Yes, they have 4 games more, but I look at Colorado and I think they're really they just need to get a decent defenseman, someone who can just help out with what they have now, and Varlamov just has to keep playing well. If he keeps playing well, this Colorado team can look not as similar, but eerily similar to the team that won the division 2 years ago.
True. Ryan, do you have anything to add in Colorado?
No.
Okay. He's doing the Hillary Clinton. He's just passing. No. All right, so we're going to go to the Arizona Coyotes. They are 5 points out. They have some UFAs coming up, especially Mikkel Bodker, who is the big name. That's going to be a UFA for them. So 5 points out and 6 points out of the third division spot from San Jose. They're a huge surprise this year.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, start with you. Arizona, buy or sell?
Sell. I think just kind of like Montreal and kind of like who else we're talking about? New Jersey. Well, not New Jersey. Philadelphia, Carolina. I think they kind of have to realize that if we really want to make the playoffs, they would have to buy a lot and give up a lot. So I think it'd be smarter, long-term wise, with guys like Duclair, Domi, OEL,
Duclair,
Strome,
yeah,
all those guys. And it would just make sense just to accept the fact that this year isn't our year, so let's get something in return for these UFAs, and someone to go with. How do you say his name?
Who are we talking about?
Who are we talking
Bodker?
about?
No. Ekman Larson.
Yeah.
I couldn't even think about it. So they need someone to play with him. So maybe they try to get a decent prospect, maybe, or they got tons of prospects. So,
but they could make a young move. I agree, for another prospect.
Yeah,
because they have
someone that can maybe play next year or the following year.
I honestly think they'll sell. I think they're going to trade Mikkel Bodker, because from what I've seen, he's not going to re-sign there. He's one of the youngest forwards that's going to hit the UFA market. He's a decent forward. I think he's a former 7th overall pick. So I could definitely see that happening. Frank or Chris, do you think the Coyotes are going to sell?
I think they sell. I just think the future is too bright right now with all the young, scoring, power forward prospects that they have for them to do anything besides sell. I think they need to just continue to build for the future. Whether it's in Arizona or not, we don't know. But I think that they sell.
Yeah, I think they're going to be more sellers. I'm kind of thinking they're going to be either sellers or they're going to stay put. I think a guy like Shane Doan is more likely going to get traded. He's going to go to a contending team to try to win because he's 39. I wouldn't be surprised if they move Doan and then he goes to a team that wins the Stanley Cup and then retires, kind of like what Kimo Timonen did last season with Chicago. Bakker.
Ray Bork, the big famous
Ray Bork
one.
as well. Yep. Bakker it sounds like he's going to get traded or he should get traded because he's not going to re-sign there. The other UFAs that Arizona could trade as well: Boyd Gordon, Victor Tikhonov, Kyle Chipchura, Nicholas Grossman.
They have a lot of guys.
A lot of guys, exactly. And it just feels like they're just gonna be like, okay, let's focus on the future and let's draft this year.
And the final team that we'll touch on, and this is the most interesting one to me, the Minnesota Wild. 5 points out of the playoffs. They're not getting a division spot in the Central. They were a team coming into the season that I actually thought were going to make a huge step and go to the conference finals. I think I might have even had them in the Cup finals. So Minnesota, we'll start with Chris. Are they going to buy or are they going to sell?
I think it's too early to tell right now. They just fired Mike Yeo yesterday. I think that we're gonna see a rejuvenated Wild team tonight. I think they're gonna take it to Vancouver, and I think they're gonna beat them by a lot. I think it's gonna be like 3-1, 4-1. But how long can the new head coach, the motivation, how long does it actually stay? Let's see what this team can bring over the next 2 weeks until the deadline, and I think we have to make that call in a week or two.
I think more than likely they'll be sellers. Like you said, they just fired your coach, and few teams that fire your coach end up making the playoffs, unlike, Blysma and the Penguins how many years back. So I think it's more than likely that they'll be sellers, but it depends if they have a good couple, next couple weeks, they have a good couple stretches, and they maybe think they can make a push. Who knows? They might try to get another forward or maybe another top defenseman. I don't know. It really all depends on how they play, but most likely, I would say, is that they're probably going to sell.
I also think that I think that they're going to buy just because I believe that with their coach being fired, it's going to spark them. I really think that they're going to go on a little bit of a run here, and I think that will spark them to buy. Then they're always a team that kind of makes a move like that, and as Sabre fans, we know because it seems like they make a trade every single year, the Wild and the Sabres. So we'll see that as it goes. And before we end on the show, I want to go through. TSN always comes out with their trade bait list.
Yeah.
And I want to go through whether, real quick, you think that these players are going to get traded by the deadline. Number 1 on their list, Jonathan Drouin. Chris, start with you.
I think he gets traded in the offseason. I think there's too much going on, and Yzerman's just going to ask for too much right now. I think that's going to wait till the summer.
Ryan?
I agree.
Summer, yes.
Okay. I do think there is a chance that he's traded just if Tampa wants to make a run and try to show Stamkos that this team is good enough. But I think the more likely scenario is what you guys pointed out. Second on the list, Louis Eriksson, Boston, 30 years old.
I think he'll get traded at the deadline.
Really, even though Boston's in a playoff spot.
Even teams in playoff spots make trades for trade their UFAs. Look at what
Tampa did with St. Louis a couple years ago,
and the Rangers trade Callahan there.
Yep.
I think that Louis Eriksson does get traded, strictly for the fact because Boston knows that next season now they have to re-sign Marchand. Marchand has turned out to be an elite player in this league, and they're going to have to pay him a lot of money, and I don't know if they want to pay an aging Louis Eriksson $4.25 million again.
I say they keep him. Keep what they got going in the playoffs.
I agree. I think he's been playing very well for them, and I think he's been on Marchand's line, so while it wouldn't surprise me if they trade him, I would guess he's going to stay. Number 3 on the list, Andrew Ladd, Winnipeg. Pretty sure he's going to trade it. Anyone disagree? Seems like
it seems more likely.
It seems most likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if they would have to bite the bullet because no one would take him.
Mm-hmm.
That's also true. Yeah.
Okay. Next on the list, Dan Hamhuis, Vancouver.
I think Dan Hamhuis is going to end up in either L.A. or Chicago.
Of course.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And then number 5 on the list, and we'll end with this player, Eric Stahl, who is on the Hurricanes, who are 4 points out of the playoffs.
That's very tough.
I think he stays, but that still doesn't mean they make the playoffs. I just think he's got he's making 9.25 million. 8.25 million this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they move him.
It's going to be tough for them to move him, but if the right deal is there, they'll definitely pull the trigger.
I agree with Chris.
I believe that. I don't know what to think with him because Carolina is so close to a playoff spot. I really think they are a good goaltender away this year from making the playoffs just because their defense has been analytically one of the best in the league this year. And their goaltending, I believe, if it's not dead last, it's one of the worst in the league in save percentage. Eddie Lack's giving them nothing. Cam Ward's giving them nothing. So maybe they want to trade for a goalie. But
Cam Ward won a Stanley Cup, never forget.
Oh, God. That didn't happen.
So did Rob Brindamore.
That didn't happen.
It never happened.
Carolina never won. So, final word, I'm going to say Eric Stahl does get traded.
Okay.
Carolina, because they're probably not going to trade for a goalie. They're not going to keep in the playoff race. Any final words on the deadline for today? Silence means no, I guess.
No,
I think we're good.
Buyers,
Guys,
buyers
thanks for having me
beware.
on.
Buyers beware. That's a good one.
All right, well, Chris, thank you for joining the show, and we'll talk to you soon. Maybe the Devils have made a trade by then, but probably not.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, thank you, Chris.
All right, yep.
And we are going to sign off here on Neutral Ice. We'll be back next week at 8 o'clock. You can plug your Twitters here. I am at Joey DB. I believe at Frank Arcuri,
Yes.
correct? And at Rai Mullen. Still the funniest one of the three.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's hilarious.
You've been listening to Neutral Ice on 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. Thanks for listening. Go watch some hockey.